This man travels with his wife and sister-in-law to a mysterious, unfamiliar swamp known for being home to some of the world's most dangerous aquatic creatures, though no one could have imagined how terrifying their situation would become. The story begins with a woman named Grace, who is living a happy life with her husband, Mike. Grace has a sister named Stacy, and the three of them plan a vacation together. After packing their bags, they set out to enjoy their trip, and Mike chooses a destination famous for crocodiles, a place where these animals are trained and bred in large numbers. They spend time there enjoying themselves, amazed by the sheer number of crocodiles, and later end the day at a night bar with food and drinks. However, Stacy insists on visiting an even better place the next day, so Mike suggests a well-known location in the region called Blackwater, a vast ocean-like area popular with tourists. Excited, Stacy pushes to go there, and Grace agrees. The next day, they reach a river area and hire a man named Hit, who owns a boat and is responsible for guiding them. As they head deep into Blackwater, Hit warns them that he carries a gun for protection because the area is filled with crocodiles, though Mike and Grace believe they are safe as long as they stay on the boat. The water grows deeper, trees stand half-submerged, and the place feels eerily silent. Mike and Stacy try fishing but catch nothing, so Hit takes them even farther inside. Soon, movement in the water catches Hit's attention, and Mike casts his line again while Grace happily watches, unaware that she is pregnant and still waiting for the right moment to tell Mike. Suddenly, a fish pulls hard on the line, and at the same time something massive slams into the boat, violently throwing it off balance and flipping it over. Everyone falls into the water, and Hit disappears from sight. Mike manages to help Grace climb onto a nearby tree, but as Stacy tries to follow, her leg gets stuck. Beneath them, something moves through the water, revealing itself to be an enormous crocodile, far larger and more terrifying than any normal one, with a massive body and unusually long, deadly teeth. Grace and Mike can clearly see that their guide, Hit, is dead, his lifeless body floating on the water, confirming that the crocodile has killed him and may now attack them next. Grace starts screaming even louder as the massive crocodile moves toward her husband, forcing Mike to quickly climb up the tree with her, knowing that even a moment's delay would have cost him his life due to the animal's powerful jaws. Stacy is then seen inside the overturned boat, and after hearing her sister's voice, she manages to come out, fully aware that a crocodile is in the water. Grace urgently instructs her to climb onto the boat as fast as possible, and Stacy manages to get on top of the flipped boat, gripping it tightly as the crocodile tries to knock her into the water by ramming it repeatedly. Despite the violent shaking, Stacy holds on, refusing to let go. Unable to watch his sister-in-law die, Mike climbs down from the tree and splashes the water to draw the crocodile's attention toward himself, knowing that crocodiles can sense even the slightest movement in the water. Fortunately, this works, and the crocodile moves away from Stacy's boat, dragging Hit's dead body with it, clearly preparing to feed on him, which temporarily leaves them safe. However, Stacy is still stranded on the overturned boat, separated from the tree by a noticeable distance, so Grace and Mike instruct her to come toward them. Terrified, Stacy refuses to touch the water, so Grace comes up with a plan and tells her to throw the boat's rope toward them so Mike can pull her closer. Stacy throws the rope, and Mike manages to grab it, but when they try pulling, they realize the boat is stuck and won't move. Grace climbs down slightly to help Mike, but their efforts fail, leaving them with only one option: Stacy must swim to them. Seeing no immediate movement in the water, they tell her this is the best chance. Though terrified, Stacy knows she can't stay there forever, so she jumps into the water and swims non-stop toward the tree, where Grace and Mike quickly pull her up. The crocodile does not return immediately, but Stacy's leg is badly injured, swollen, and in urgent need of treatment. With their lives still in danger and no help in sight, the three decide to wait there, unaware that the area is completely deserted and that the tourists they heard about are nowhere nearby, while subtle movements in the surrounding water make it clear that the crocodile has not left. The crocodile keeps surfacing again and again, watching closely and waiting for the moment they climb down so it can attack, leaving Grace, Mike, and Stacy with no clear escape route. Mike suggests that if they can flip the overturned boat upright and hide inside it, they might slowly make their way out, but the real problem is reaching the boat safely because the crocodile would not miss a single chance to strike. Terrified, Stacy begins screaming loudly for help, and although Mike tries to calm her down, Grace also feels helpless, knowing that shouting is only draining their energy and that no one is coming to rescue them, especially since their only phone has fallen into the water and may not even work. That is when Grace notices that many trees and plants are interconnected, and if they are careful, they might be able to escape by moving across the tree trunks, but first someone needs to check how far those trunks extend. Mike cannot go because his glasses were lost in the water, making it hard for him to see clearly, and Stacy's injured leg prevents her from moving, leaving Grace as the only option. Carefully and alert, Grace steps forward across the tree trunks, fully aware that the crocodile could attack from below at any moment, so she does not stop and keeps moving. At first, the trunk seems stable, but soon she realizes there is a large gap between the next set of trees, a gap that can only be crossed by swimming, with no other way out. However, swimming would create movement in the water and instantly attract the crocodile, trapping them once again. As Grace turns back, she notices severed body parts floating nearby, panics, and rushes back to Mike and Stacy, climbing onto the tree and telling them there is no escape that way and they must find another option to survive the crocodile. With no other options left, Mike returns to his original plan and decides to go back to the overturned boat and try to flip it upright. Grace desperately tries to stop him from entering the water, but Mike is determined and quietly moves toward the boat without making a sound. The boat is tangled and stuck by a rope underneath, but somehow Mike manages to turn it upright. Grace and Stacy feel relieved seeing this, but suddenly Mike is nowhere to be seen, making them fear that the crocodile has killed him. After a brief, terrifying silence, Mike resurfaces, holding onto the boat and floating there, and Grace feels a moment of relief when she sees he is alive. However, that relief does not last long, because moments later the water begins to move again, and the massive crocodile lunges straight at Mike, dragging him underwater before Grace can do anything but scream. Soon after, Mike's lifeless body floats back to the surface, confirming that he is gone. Grace completely breaks down, never imagining that a simple trip would destroy her entire life, and she is consumed by regret for never telling Mike that she was pregnant. Stacy holds her sister together and reminds her that this is not the time to mourn, because they still need to escape and save their own lives. By now, the two of them have been stranded on the trees for several hours without food or water, and Stacy's injured leg has grown even worse, swelling more with every passing moment. Grace keeps looking again and again at her husband Mike's dead body floating in the water, but forcing herself to stop thinking about it, she tries to reach and grab the rope hanging from the boat. Without overthinking, she attempts to hold the rope by using the thick tree branches around her, but fails repeatedly. A shocking moment follows when, every time Grace gets close to the water, the massive crocodile tries to lunge at her, and only her quick retreat back up the tree saves her from being dragged into its jaws. Terrified, Grace and Stacy climb even higher into the tree as night slowly falls, making the entire area far more frightening. The crocodile begins feeding on Mike's body, signaling that it is in the middle of its meal and will likely come after them once it is done. Darkness surrounds them, leaving Grace and Stacy barely able to see anything, while the conditions are perfect for a predator like the crocodile, which can see well in the dark. After losing her husband, Grace is completely shattered, already weak and now crying uncontrollably as she watches the crocodile continue to eat Mike's body below. She feels as if all her strength to escape is gone, and throughout the night she is haunted by disturbing visions, blaming herself for not doing enough to save him, even though Stacy keeps reassuring her and trying to calm her down. In situations like this, when a crocodile is in the water and repeatedly trying to attack, certain survival rules become critical. Crocodiles are extremely sensitive to water movement, so even while moving in water, splashing must be avoided at all costs. If a crocodile approaches to attack, it is impossible to outrun it in water, so the goal should always be to reach land, where its speed drops significantly. And in the worst-case scenario, if a crocodile grabs you, the only chance of survival is to strike its weakest points, especially the eyes and nostrils, and most importantly the throat flap, a sensitive skin valve that closes underwater to keep water out of its lungs, because forcing that flap open can cause the crocodile to immediately release and retreat. It becomes a matter of life and death, so survival comes first. A crocodile's most dangerous move is the death roll, because crocodiles cannot chew their prey, so they try to tear it apart by gripping with their sharp teeth and spinning violently in one direction, creating so much pressure that the body part they grab can be ripped off completely, and using this instinct can sometimes save a life. By morning, they have spent the entire night clinging to the tree, and Grace still looks defeated, saying they will not survive and that the crocodile will kill them. Stacy gently reminds her that even though her husband is gone, the unborn child she is carrying must be protected at any cost, as it may be the last piece of Mike left behind. Hearing this gives Grace a small sense of motivation, and she decides to fight for survival alongside her sister. She repeatedly climbs higher to scan the area for any passing ship or small boat she could call for help, but the dense trees block the view, leaving nothing clearly visible. They have been trapped in that place for more than a full day, and neither of them has eaten a single bite of food, leaving their bodies weaker with every passing hour. Grace and Stacy can clearly see that their boat is slowly drifting away with the current, and if they let it go, their only possible escape will be gone forever. Gathering all their courage, they decide to move toward the boat and climb onto it, believing that once they are on board, they can slowly drift away and put distance between themselves and the crocodile. The danger, however, is that they must enter the water, because there are no tree trunks reaching the spot where the boat is. Knowing that even small splashes could alert the crocodile, Grace and Stacy carefully step into the water without creating any movement. Supporting each other, they begin moving slowly toward the boat, but suddenly there is a disturbance behind them, caused by the same deadly crocodile, which seems to have sensed their presence. It emerges in front of them, staring as if to warn that escape is impossible. Refusing to panic, Grace and Stacy freeze in place, but then the crocodile disappears beneath the surface, leaving them unable to tell where the attack will come from. Overcome with fear, Stacy panics and starts running, forcing Grace to move as well, but in that moment the crocodile strikes, biting into Grace's legs. Grace screams in agony as the water around her turns red with blood, and after struggling desperately, she is dragged under the water and vanishes for a moment. Stacy cries out for her sister, calling her name in terror, seeing no sign of her, but miraculously Grace manages to break free from the crocodile. As she emerges, Stacy pulls her back onto the tree. The crocodile is no longer visible, but Grace is badly injured, with deep wounds from its long teeth tearing into her legs, causing severe bleeding. Realizing that too much blood loss could be fatal, Stacy tears strips from her clothes and tightly binds Grace's legs, hoping to slow the bleeding and keep her alive. Grace is in extreme pain and keeps screaming, and the blood flowing from her injured legs drips into the water, which obviously reveals their location to the crocodile. It stays just below the surface, circling and waiting for the right moment to attack and finish Grace off. Stacy does everything she can to help her sister, focused on only one goal, getting both of them out of there alive. After moving anxiously along the tree branches for a while, Stacy suddenly hears a sound, the noise of a motorboat, and when she looks closely, she sees travelers passing by at a distance. She starts screaming at the top of her lungs to get their attention, hoping they will hear her and come to help, but the engine noise of the boat is too loud, and the passengers never hear her cries, continuing on without realizing what is happening nearby. Stacy keeps shouting until her throat starts to hurt, but it leads to nothing. She refuses to leave Grace alone, knowing how panicked and weak her sister is, and tightly rewraps the cloth around Grace's legs to slow the bleeding, because any blood in the water will only attract the crocodile even more. The crocodile waits patiently for them to come down so it can attack and kill them both. Grace grows weaker by the minute, and Stacy finally tells her that she has no choice but to go to the boat, because it is their only possible way out, and if she can somehow get it working, they might survive. Grace tries to stop her, but she knows she cannot go herself, leaving Stacy to take on this terrifying task alone. Gathering all her courage, Stacy enters the deadly water where the crocodile is waiting and slowly moves toward the motorboat. Thankfully, she does not encounter the crocodile right away, and taking advantage of that moment, she reaches the boat and climbs on top of it. Water has collected inside, so Stacy starts bailing it out with a bucket, all the while feeling an overwhelming sense of fear, knowing this crocodile is unlike any other, far larger, far more dangerous, and desperately hungry. After bailing the water out, Stacy tries to start the motor so the boat can move forward, but the engine creates loud noise and vibrations in the water, which immediately attracts the crocodile. It charges straight at the boat, violently shaking it, and then climbs onto it, trying to kill Stacy. Terrified, Stacy stumbles back and jumps into the water, desperately trying to reach the tree where Grace is waiting, but by then the crocodile has already entered the water, and in water its speed is terrifyingly fast. Within moments, it reaches Stacy and attacks her near the tree. She is completely helpless, panics, and loses consciousness as the crocodile strikes her with brutal force, while Grace, trapped above and badly injured herself, can do nothing to help. Everything goes black after the attack. When Stacy slowly regains consciousness, she finds herself in a muddy area, suffering intense pain in her abdomen because the crocodile has inflicted multiple injuries on her body. Nearby lies Hit's dead body, making it clear that the crocodile drags its victims here and stores what remains for later, which means it is not hungry right now but saving its prey for the future. Realizing the crocodile will return soon, Stacy knows she must prepare. Fighting through the pain, she remembers that their guide Hit carried a gun for protection, so she quickly searches his pockets and, luckily, finds the pistol. With no time to spare, she loads the gun, washes the bullets in the water, and tries to ready the weapon, even though she has never used a gun before. She nervously fires a test shot and nearly panics at the sound, but then she makes a firm decision. When the crocodile comes back, she will shoot it, even if it costs her her own life, because she is determined to save her sister at any cost. Stacy's condition had become so severe that even her fingers were starting to twist and lock up, but somehow she managed to tie pieces of her clothing tightly around her injured hand and began creating movement in the water with anything she could find, hoping to lure the crocodile closer. Her plan was simple and desperate. The moment the crocodile came within range, she would shoot it with her gun and end the threat. What Stacy didn't realize was that crocodiles are far more intelligent than most people imagine. As one of the deadliest predators, a crocodile hunts strategically, often approaching its prey from behind when the victim's attention is focused elsewhere. The same thing happens here, as the crocodile silently circles and comes up directly behind Stacy. Just as it prepares to attack, Stacy senses something and turns her head, finally spotting it. She immediately raises her gun and fires, but one bullet is completely wasted and her aim is off, failing to hit a fatal spot. Overwhelmed by fear and panic in that terrifying moment, Stacy loses control and starts fleeing through the water, trying desperately to put as much distance as possible between herself and the approaching predator. The terrifying crocodile lingered in the water, watching Stacy carefully, as if calculating the exact moment to strike. No matter where she moved within the swamp, he was the undisputed ruler of the entire pond. Stacy clutched her gun tightly, moving quickly toward her sister, but the crocodile had already submerged itself, slowly tracking her position from below. Then, in an instant, it vanished beneath the surface, and Stacy lost sight of it completely. She froze, unsure of where to go next, keeping her gun aimed in every direction, ready to fire the moment the beast emerged. Suddenly, without warning, the crocodile leapt out of the water with terrifying speed and clamped its massive jaws around Stacy's arm. She could barely move it, her entire arm was trapped and severely injured. Despite holding the gun, Stacy was powerless for a moment, as the crocodile thrashed violently, preparing to execute its deadly death roll, a maneuver that can easily tear a human limb apart. In a split second, she pressed the trigger. The gun fired straight through the crocodile, striking its body, and the monstrous predator collapsed lifelessly into the water. If anyone were there without a gun, the situation would have been nearly impossible to survive. But this encounter also reveals one of the crocodile's most critical vulnerabilities, a special flap in its throat. If that flap is forced downward, the crocodile cannot breathe properly underwater and is compelled to release its prey. This weak spot, when exploited correctly, can be the key to escaping one of nature's deadliest predators. The only small mercy in this horrifying ordeal is that Stacy is still alive, frozen in shock as she watches the crocodile's massive, lifeless body slowly drift away across the dark water. Every breath hurts, her body is trembling, yet she somehow forces herself to move, dragging her injured body back toward the tree where her sister is waiting. Clinging to the last bit of hope inside her, Stacy excitedly tells Grace that the crocodile is dead and that they can finally escape from this nightmare, but there is no answer. The silence feels heavier than the attack itself. Panic overwhelms her as she shakes Grace again and again, calling her name desperately, until the unbearable truth sinks in: Grace has stopped breathing. She has lost too much blood, and without medical help at the right time, her body has finally given up. Stacy collapses beside her sister, crying uncontrollably, her screams swallowed by the swamp, realizing that after risking her own life and enduring unimaginable pain to save Grace, she has still lost her. In a single, cruel moment, almost half of Stacy's family is gone, leaving her completely shattered and alone. With danger still surrounding her and no strength left to fight, Stacy gently lifts her sister's lifeless body and places it inside the boat, her hands shaking as she slowly pushes it forward through the water. This moment becomes permanently burned into her memory, a trauma she will carry for the rest of her life. What Stacy does not know is that fate was strangely kind to her that day, because she encountered only one crocodile, while that area is actually filled with many more deadly predators that rarely ever spare humans. This terrifying story is based on real events, inspired by true survivor accounts of people who lived through crocodile attacks, and with that, this chilling and heartbreaking tale comes to an end.